You are now live. It is now 8:59, November 21st, and we're telling your followers that you started a live Instagram. So, we're going to see who is on the call. Hello, UKK. Hey, Lost Soul. How are you? Hey, Roxanne. Hello, Mac. How are you? Brazil is in the house. What country are you calling from? Cake Roma's here. All right, all right. What country are you calling from? Hey, English comes first. Good to see you, as always. Hello, Mohammed. How are you? Roxanne. Hello, FEF. Hope all is well. Let me know the countries where you are calling from. Followers, we're going to get started in about 30 seconds. Yes, English comes first. It has been a while. I hope you are well. Hello, Radio Africa. Doctor. Turkey's in the house. I love it. Cake Roro. Cake Roho, where are you calling from? Jeddah's in the house. MOH, hello. How are you? NEGIN, hello. I'm good, thank you very much for asking. Afghanistan is in the house. I love it. We are international. KSA, KSA, KSA. Ian from Riyadh, welcome. Iran is in the house. Good. All right. English teacher, hello. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Belarus, 5. Kuwait, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Hello, Mr. Hazan. How are you? Always a pleasure, sir. If you are a regular caller, hello, Teacher Shaban, how are you? If you are a regular caller, hey, welcome. And if you are calling for the very, very first time, I would like to welcome you. The special guest has joined. First time caller, let us know if you're a first time caller so we can invite or welcome you. So listen, followers, we have a special guest. Unfortunately, Starling Diva could not make it because she was not feeling well. However, inshallah, she will feel better, so please send her your prayers. But the good thing is that we are very lucky to have another caller on the call. Why? Because this is the place where you and I learn together. I'm very glad they were able to join, and hopefully we're going to learn some new English together. First-time callers, welcome. Regular callers, welcome. Hello, hello,
Hi,
hello.
how are you?
I'm good. Hold on 1 second. So followers, listen. We have a entrepreneur. We have a person that speaks English.
Not really
And
an entrepreneur.
oh, I want to
Just a
call you
family.
that.
Okay,
Okay. Well, listen, thank you very much for being on the call. Please introduce yourself. Now, followers, listen, is this your first time on a live Instagram? Yes or no?
Yes, this is my first time. That's why
Ye-
I'm excited.
All right, so followers, listen, we have a first time caller on the live Instagram, so everybody send some love and send some hearts. And she has some questions for me. I have some questions for her. And if indeed, followers, I will take your questions and if I see them. So, ma'am, please introduce yourself and welcome to the call.
Thank you very much. I am Jawahir Zahran. I'm from Jeddah and I started this online newsletter. It's called You Newsletter. This newsletter is basically about, I talk about events, different events, event coverages, reviews. I can review like shops or restaurants or and it's an online platform. It's a magazine. So that's all. You have another
That's
question?
I do. Now, it's interesting, ma'am, because you have a newsletter and you created a newsletter and you say you're not an entrepreneur. So the first question that I have for you is, what made you create a newsletter online? How did you get that inspiration? What made you do that?
What's going on? What's
Can you hear
going
me?
on? Yeah, it was lagging, special. I
Oh,
don't
no
know.
problem. Yeah, no, sometimes it's the internet. So what I was saying is, ma'am,
Is
it's
the
that
lighting
what you,
good? Is the lighting good, or I need to like?
yes, ma'am, I can see you. Yeah, you're fine.
Okay,
You're fine.
okay.
So, what made you create an online newsletter? I mean, you say you're not an entrepreneur, but look at that. You actually created something. So, what made you create the newsletter?
Well, I first when I it was first founded in February 2011, and the it was part, actually, how I started it. Actually, I always wanted to be a writer. I'm a writer, actually. I like to write different articles in newspapers and like that. And in my college years, when I was in college, like a college student, there was a journalism club, and I was part of this journalism club, and I have published articles and stuff like that. So um, the president of the club decided to, like, you know, I don't know, maybe she was busy or whatever. She stopped working as a president, and she told me, like, she actually approached me and said, okay, um, I'm not gonna be the president anymore, and I believe you can take over, and I think you have what it takes. So I took that as an opportunity, and I said, okay, let me be the president of the journalism club. And then after I became the president of this club, I created this newsletter. I created a new name for it because the previous name was different. So uh, everything was different. And then after and it was like in the summer, in the spring semester and the fall semester. After that, you know, of course, I'm not going to be in college forever. It was part of the college, and it was part of the club, sorry. And actually, I also put it like for the public to read, not just college students. But, you know, after I graduated, and, you know, I told myself, like, okay, why not make it like an official newsletter, like not just part of the club, like, you know, a standalone newsletter. And that's how
Right.
I started. And then I began and I
Excellent.
began, and you know, I'm still growing.
You know what? First of all, it's interesting because I love the fact that you said, "Oh no, I think of you as an entrepreneur. You had a dream, right? And you actually made your dream into a reality." So it's kind of like, "Hey, it's great." Now, let me ask you this. As someone who writes, let's say we have people on the call that have an interest or a desire like yourself to create a newsletter. Give them tips or suggestions of what kind of like the do's and don'ts are. So I want to create a newsletter. How did you walk them through the process on online? Here are the things you should do. Here are the things that you shouldn't do based on your experience.
Well, first of all, you know, to make a newsletter, you need to, first of all, you need to be like a writer, a good, you know, you have good English, good, not so necessarily English, maybe you want to be in Arabic. You should have like good writing skills yourself. You can
Right.
be like, if you want to be an editor, you should like be like qualified to be an editor. I mean, you don't have to like what I was trying to say is, you need to be well aware of the grammar, of the rules of the language, all of this, and you know how to proper, you know, say things. And you know, if it's a journal, you know, newsletter is part. It's part of, you know, the, what do you call it, journalism. Okay,
Right.
so
Right.
there are some rules, like not every topic should be like published. What, you know, some topics are, you know, like taboo, or you shouldn't be like talking about it or tackle it. So there should be like a guidelines. So, you know, I'm still also learning from others, because sometimes I look at the guidelines of, you know, other well respected newspapers or stuff like that, and I see, okay,
Mm-hmm.
this is a good guideline, like we should tell the reader, like, you shouldn't do like hate speech, or you shouldn't be like biased, stuff like that. So, you know,
I
and
have a
also,
great. Well, I'm sorry, real quick, real quick. You said a wonderful word, and I want you to expand on that. You used the word bias, bias. I think that's a wonderful word. Could you explain what you mean by bias? Because I've said that a lot of times to my followers. So you as an editor, as a writer, how do you define bias, and why do you think that is important not to do?
okay. You know, we all have different opinions and different views. And bias means you're being subjective about, it's okay to have an opinion, but to be subjective, like, for example, I'm not thinking of any topic. I mean, I don't know, like women driving in Saudi Arabia, let's say. So, for example, if you think like women are bad drivers, this is your personal opinion. So you shouldn't be like generalizing it as it's like a fact or something, because
Mm,
that's you're not being objective. Like, you should approach the topic from, you know, different points of views, like who's the pro women drivers, who's the con, you know, you understand that.
right, right. I love that you say that because I think it's to your point, looking at both sides of the issue or trying to be as impartial as you can. So I love that you say that. And I think that's extremely important in the work that you're doing. So I'm glad you mentioned that word. Now, let me ask you this, ma'am. Because one of the followers asked the question, so they beat me to the punch. They said, oh my goodness, her English is wonderful. Kind of walk us through your English journey. How did you learn? Where did you learn? What did you like about it? What didn't you like?
I learned when I was in middle school. Actually, in public school, we don't have, in elementary school, because I was in public schools all my life. So I didn't have good English, but I taught myself. I was self-taught. I watched a lot of movies, listened to a lot of songs, English, of course. So that's why I learned. And I tried to, like, you know, we have like British accent, we have American, but I
Right.
felt like more, more attached, emotionally attached to America for some reason. So,
Okay.
I like the accent, and I try to make that my accent. Like,
I love it. And the thing, okay, so followers, listen. For those of you, wherever you're calling from, whether you're calling from Saudi, whether you're calling from Turkey, whether you're calling from China or Malaysia, our special guest taught herself English. So when you say to me, or some of you followers might say to me, oh, I don't know how to learn English. What's the best way? There it is. One manner is she taught herself. So self-teaching, I think that's
yeah, yeah,
beautiful.
yeah.
Okay. You have a question from one of the followers. So Hale wants to know, in your opinion, what is the top movies or television series that you watch that you would recommend to learn English, or shows that you found valuable?
I cannot recall, but I watched a lot of, movies. I cannot recall like one. I cannot, recommend something special, because I watched a lot of different movies. Uh, I would suggest like maybe Disney movies, because they are for children, and their language is so, you know, you can learn it. Yeah.
Right. Right. Now, let me ask you a question. So you self-taught yourself, which I think is wonderful. Let's say, for example, I'm just learning the language, all right?
Yeah.
When you were learning the language, were you ever shy or afraid or not have confidence to say, speak the language? And if so, how did you overcome that to be the fluent speaker you are now?
I remember, okay, I remember you want me to like um, say some memories from my childhood.
If you want, sure, because we have a, I have a lot of people, and I'm very grateful to that, whether they're my followers or some of my students. They say, oh, you know what? I want to speak English, but I'm really shy. I don't have the confidence. And I'm just wondering if you can relate to that, and if so, share your experience with the other callers to see how you overcame that. Because sometimes I say, Teacher Will says sometimes, listen, you can overcome your fear, you can become confident, but some people might be like, Teacher Will, what are you talking about? Your native language is English. So they might actually believe you more than me because English is not your first language. So how did you do it?
Okay. When I was a child, I didn't know English very well, but I was speaking little language, like yes, no, stuff like that. People were asking me, and I used to say like yes without understanding, and they're like, what, what the hell she's talking about? Like, but then because you should have a genuine interest in learning the language, because if
Yes,
you don't have the desire to learn, you're not gonna learn. This is my belief.
I love it.
So, as I grew up in middle school, they taught me like very basic English, like ABC and, simple sentences. But I had the interest to learn more. So I took that, I took the will to learn. And that's how I learned, because I had the desire. Because I see a lot of people, okay, this is the English class. We're just gonna like take the exam and just never touch English again. Like it's just a subject in school.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
I didn't take it as a subject. I take it as the language that because it's international language. Like people should learn about it. So I had the desire, and I had the desire to learn it very well, like perfect the language. So I started like watching movies, and then later on, maybe in my college years, actually, it's where my language, improved. And
Mm-hmm.
then I started reading books, and I really, really recommend reading. Reading books is the number one. The number one, even
Can you
better than
please go ahead.
even better than watching movies. Or if you want to watch,
Can you please say that again? Please say that again. Please, teacher,
read,
please.
read, 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 read books in English.
Why do you say read books in English?
Because when you're reading, you're gonna encounter new words, new vocabularies, how you say different words in different contexts. So you're gonna learn it. So you're gonna look up the dictionary and see, okay, oh, this word means that, so I can use it maybe in my daily life, or I can use it elsewhere. So that's how you even expand your vocabulary. Because when I started, maybe my English was fine, but I didn't have enough vocabulary. So with the reading, uh, I expanded my vocabulary. I learned you don't have to like use jargon all the time, but at least you can use the words that are right in the right context. That's it.
1 second. Now, followers, I cannot go savage because we have a guest speaker. So, this is the first time that I'm meeting actually this special guest. So this live will be saved for 24 hours. I highly recommend you save the live because she has just given you golden nuggets, clear examples and techniques and suggestions of what you can do to improve your English. So when you send me a DM message and say, Teacher, how can I improve my speaking? Well, what did she say? Read, read, read. For those of you that want to increase your vocabulary and ask me a question of how to do it, read, read, read. I am enjoying this live Instagram already so much. Thank you very much. I love it. I love it. I
And
love it.
no, another
Okay.
tip is when you try to pick books, like you don't have to pick it very long books because that way you're not gonna learn. It's gonna be like you're gonna be overwhelmed by the too much words and stuff. So you use maybe like 20-page book or children stories.
Right,
And
right.
that, yeah, and that way you can learn like you can
No,
learn
it's great.
step
You
by
can
step,
learn exactly, step by step.
gradually.
I love this live. By the way, followers, listen, if you're just joining the call, we have a special guest, an English speaker, an Arabic speaker, an entrepreneur, though she does not call herself that, but she created her own newsletter. She lives in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. And one of the followers said, which is interesting. You took you took a hobby and you made it into profession. What I would like to say is, hey, followers, what? She found her passion, and now she's taking her passion and she's contributing to herself and her society. So that's great, right? Let me ask you a question as it relates. Let's continue in terms of newsletter and online. Talk to us about some of the events that you've covered or that you've either uh, been to face and or you've written about, just in case people want to know about that.
I've been to many, like for example, in Jeddah, it's very festive season, especially in the winter, like November, October, December. We have a lot of events, so sometimes I go to them and cover them. But of course, I'm not gonna cover all. I'm just gonna cover the things that I think it's maybe unique or different, or maybe something related to art, or like art exhibitions, because we still, I think this is a different topic, but I think like artists are not being appreciated more. So to have like art exhibitions, this is a big deal. And I covered, and I'm so glad to cover, like we have like now, right now we have like the Saudi Arts Council, which is responsible for making art exhibitions here in Jeddah, and I think in Saudi Arabia also. So it's always, I like to cover them, and they have different themes in art. And also I cover events like I covered an event by Aramco Saudi before. It's called like Knowledge or Isra Knowledge, something like that. It was really unique.
Okay.
Yeah, and also like a book fair, Jeddah Book Fair. It's also coming soon here in December, I think.
Excellent.
Stuff like that.
One of the followers had a comment. By the way, uh, relax. You're doing awesome. I don't know if you see the comments that some of the followers are saying. You've now inspired them to read again. You're doing an awesome job. Your
Great,
communication is
great,
great. So you're doing
great.
awesome. Relax.
Okay.
Hello, Styling Diva. Thank you for being on the call. I hope you feel better. And thank you for coming to support. So here's a question for you. Um, let's talk about challenges. What challenges do you face? What challenges do you face as an online newsletter or organization? Any challenges? Because again, now you have people that you're inspiring, right? I say on my call, and I love live Instagrams because I really believe that we learn together, and it's important, I believe,
Yeah.
that people have to see themselves speaking the language. And so you can touch people probably maybe in a way that I can't, because they might be able to relate more to you than say me, though we're using English. So if we have people that want to write and become newsletters or news owners or writing online, talk about some of the challenges, if any, that you faced and how you overcame those challenges.
Okay, challenges. Challenges in the newsletter itself, or in in what sense, like exactly? Can you be specific? Because I can tell you many challenges. Like,
Okay, well, you share. That's what I want to hear. You share whatever you want to share. I want to hear challenges. I think it's good for people to hear the good and the bad. So whatever challenges that you feel comfortable in sharing, share and how you overcame them.
I think maybe the challenges is when you go and cover events, because you're going out and approaching people, and then you have to introduce yourself. And at first I was really nervous, and I had I remember I had all the worst nightmares. But after I'm done with the coverage, or it was successfully done, I'm like, okay, I really did it, and it's perfect. So the more you do it, the more it's going to be easy for you. And of course, it's going to be challenging at the beginning, because actually this made me, go out of my comfort zone, because my comfort zone is just to stay home, not talk to people, and, only talk to the people I know. But when you have a newsletter, the challenge is that you need to talk to different people. You need to talk to people you don't know, people everyone, like people that they have, big people, they have businesses, anyone, like, because you're trying to collect, not collect, I mean, you're trying to, like, bring, like, good topics, or bring,
Right.
like, yeah,
Awareness.
yeah. So you need to, like, I mean, because here in Saudi also, you need, like, to have good relations,
Right.
with
Well,
other
you know
people.
what? Right. You know what?
But
Let me
for
say
me,
this. I'm sorry, real quick. I think what you made me think of, and I did not mean to interrupt you. I apologize. Let me just say this. I appreciate the fact that you said that you overcame your challenges, because it's possible. Not only is that challenge with respect to a newsletter important, but followers, listen, overcoming your fear or overcoming your challenges, that relates to English. That's number one. Number two is that what did she actually learn how to do? She learned how to network. She learned how business English is built on relationships. So what happens if she met someone at an event that did not speak Arabic? What did she do? She learned her English. Final point, what did she do? She indicated that she stepped out of her comfort zone. Followers, so important. You want to learn English? You want to achieve something in your life? It is up to you to step out of your comfort zone. I'm so glad you said that. I'm sorry. Continue.
okay, that's it. So uh networking is key. But for me, maybe I don't have a lot of networks, but still, you can, don't let this discourage you. So this didn't discourage me, and I continued, like, approaching, and yeah, and I did what I could, you know
I think what you're saying is extremely important, because networks, whether you're talking in the business world, regardless of what business that is, networks occur through time, through work, through patience. And so your network is increasing. And so that's a good thing. I just like the fact that you said, whereas you were saying, get out of your comfort zone. And I think that's very applicable to people that are certainly learning English, and or other people that might be like yourself, that has a particular passion and is looking to make that passion possibly into a reality. So it's very, very good information. Okay, so I've been asking you a lot of questions, so I want to give you an opportunity to ask me any questions if you have any, because we learn together.
yeah.
So any questions for me? And followers, if you have questions,
Yeah,
please feel free, and then
feel
I
free.
will definitely ask.
Cool. Okay, so, like, what are the things that usually the students, the learners of English tell you, like, most of the time? The the I wouldn't say, like, the difficulties, or um
Would you say challenges?
Difficulties they.
Yes, great question. I would say three come to mind. I'm shy. I have no confidence. I want to know the best way. So there are actually four: fear, shy, confidence, and I want to know the best way. A lot of people are saying, I want to learn English, yet I don't know where to begin or what's the best way. I want to learn English, but I'm very shy. I want to learn English, but I don't have confidence. So I think those are four key components. And I try to say, well, imagine, put yourself in a situation if, fear is real. I made fear into an abbreviation in terms of on my YouTube channel and Instagram channel, in terms of saying, you know what, it is possible to overcome your fear. It is possible to have more confidence if you decide that you want to move forward in that. And people, I think also they figure out, how do I begin or what's the best way? So I think those are kind of the major questions.
So shyness is the thing that they're.
Definitely shyness. Definitely shyness. And I'm not trying to be sexist when I say this, because all people get shy. In my experience, I find women, whether it's here in the Gulf or even in the States, to be more shy or shyer than, like, say, men. So shyness is a big issue. So I think that for me, it's kind of like I have a mindset. I use this a lot as an abbreviation. And it's kind of like what you said, whereas you were talking about the fact that, hey, you had a desire to learn, right? You had a desire to learn English because you recognize it's a global and international language. So I kind of say, listen, you have a goal. If you have a goal, your goal is to learn English, then you plan, then you pray. You don't believe in prayer, call it belief in yourself, and then you produce. But shyness is a lot. And because I think sometimes people, regardless of where you live.
The language or just to speak, shyness to speak in English or.
I think in my opinion, speak. A lot of people have a desire to speak more so than, any language, Arabic, English, French, Farsi, whatever. They're four language skills. Most people have a desire to speak, and so they're afraid or shy of speaking because of what people might say. And the big reason is because they're afraid of making mistakes. And so one of the things that I try to encourage people is, it's kind of like, well, you made mistakes in your native language. You just didn't realize it because you were too young. So it is certainly okay to make mistakes, because how else are you going to learn the language? So people are afraid of making mistakes, number one. Some people are afraid of the fact of how they might sound or what people might think about them. So for me, part of the way that I try to teach, and hopefully,
I can relate.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm
sorry, go ahead.
Definitely relate, being shy of how you might sound or making mistakes. Like even me, sometimes I get nervous because I want to say the right things and I want to sound perfect. It's, maybe it's kind of like, I'm not perfectionist, but, trying to.
No, I think that's real.
But
I mean,
also, part of shyness is that when you're shy, you're afraid of making mistakes.
right.
Because you don't want people maybe to make fun of you or.
Yes. And I'm glad, you know what? I'm glad you're being honest, because I think that I say this to a lot of people a lot of times. Listen, I'm a native English speaker, okay? I did a live Instagram, I think, a week ago, and I made a mistake. I laughed at myself, I acknowledged the mistake, and I moved on. And I do think what becomes important is that, to me, English is a mindset. Yes, you have to have the desire, or you have to have the passion, or you have to have the G, the P, and the P. But, it's kind of a mindset saying, you know what, it's okay to make mistakes. And why do I say that? Because it's my opinion that sometimes people are are more concerned about what other people think about them than how they think about themselves, number one. Number two is sometimes people that are learning English can be the worst critic and the hardest on others. So it prevents people from speaking. Oh, why is he talking that way? Or, oh, she doesn't have a right accent. Or, oh, she doesn't sound American. And so people begin to play negative tapes and, you know, perceptions of themselves. That's why I normally tell people, listen, everybody has an accent. Your native language is Arabic. Arabic has an accent. You focus on fluency. And particularly, you know, if I'm native and I make mistakes, it's kind of like having that mindset to do it. So I'm glad that you say that, because I do think what is oftentimes not said is that people are afraid what other people might think. And so I'm glad that you actually have the courage to talk about shyness, because it can be overcome. And what did you say? By getting out of your comfort zone. And I like that. Real quick, before you ask me another question, you have a question from one of the followers, Ain't the Same. So they're asking the question, the You newsletter, is it mainly it's mainly dedicated to whom? Is it just within the Jeddah area, or is it a particular, is it available for everything? Or you say your focus would be to follow citizens, or how? She's asking that.
Well, it is based in Jeddah, so it's Jeddah and, you know, Saudi Arabia, because I'm living here. So of course, my topics, maybe it's gonna be like surround, you know, based here, and even the events is gonna be more here than other events. I also talk about local events, you know, and sometimes I bring some events from the world, but they're not so many. My focus is, you know, my community. If there's anything like maybe related to positive change, so I like to talk about it, because my aim is to make positive change and, you know, good behavior and promote good behavior here in the community.
Right. And, you know, and here's the thing, Ain't the Same, I think it's a brilliant question. So, hey, even if one is not in Jeddah or the surrounding areas, it goes to our earlier point, check out our newsletter. You can learn a different perspective. You can learn, let's say if you wanted to always go to Jeddah and you can, or you've never been, she did say read, so read, and you'll gain a different perspective. You have another question from one of the followers, MBATAWEEL. They want to say, so hey, who are you speaking English with? Because they're calling, do you speak English with your friends, with your family, by yourself? They wanted to know that.
In my college years, usually it's because I studied in an English medium college, so maybe university. So this taught me a lot, and you know, even all the curriculums, all my subjects were in English in the university days. So that's how I learned, and even when I converse with my friends, it was English. Most of the time it was English, so this made me practice more. And sometimes, even now with my friend, I speak English. Sometimes some people hate that, like even in Snapchat I speak English. So yeah, and some people like say, okay, why is she speaking English? Like, you know, you understand?
You know, I'm glad you say that, because I really respect your honesty. Hold on one second. Mamand, I think she answered that question, but I'm going to rephrase it like this. I'm glad you said that, because what's interesting is, and it's not just Saudi, here is my personal opinion. Follow this as my personal opinion. We know that English is a global international language. We know that it's used all over. And yet, one of the things that I respect about our caller tonight is that when we say, hey, listen, you have to practice, or you have to immerse yourself, or change your keyboard in English, or speak English with your friends or your family, we do have some people, not just the Saudi, but there are people or countries in the world that if you're learning English, they might not necessarily be supportive of that. And so that goes to our earlier point in terms of the fact of that might actually prevent people speaking. So I just want to personally say, as someone who is bilingual himself, is that listen, if you're speaking English, there is nothing the matter with your native language, and don't worry about what other people think about you. And I'm glad that you mentioned that, because that is an issue, not just, I think, in Saudi Arabia, but in all different parts of the world. Hold on one second. Oh, Ain't the Same has a question. She says, hey, so let's say you decided to write about this live. Ain't the Same, you're crazy. What would the title be? You're not crazy, Ain't the Same. I'm just using that as an example.
Sorry,
she wanted to,
the question, please.
yes, she said, so if you decided to write about this live Instagram, what would the title be?
Maybe the dilemmas of writing, of speaking English.
Okay, good. See, I thought she was going to say Teacher Will is crazy. And
You're not crazy. You're not crazy.
all right, let's see. I'm just looking at the comments. You can ask me another question while I look for other comments. I'm just making sure I get all the followers down. Hold on one second. Okay, got it. What other question do you have for me? Okay, so people are saying wonderful for your conversation. They're liking your English. What other question do you have for me?
For you.
Yes.
Okay. I'm kind of lost a little bit.
That's okay.
Yeah, okay. For you. Okay, how did you start teaching? Like, do you always like to teach, or?
No, I didn't come from a teaching background. So basically, very quickly, I came from a business background. I needed a job. My family's in America. In 2008, there was a bad economic crisis, and I was like, I need a job. Remember that? So I basically, how I came to Saudi Arabia, there were 3 countries I was looking at: China, South Korea, and Saudi. China was too far. I grew up with a lot of South Koreans, and at the time I was like, hey, you know what? It's my first international assignment. I didn't know of a lot of Americans, at the time that lived in Saudi Arabia. So I wanted to experience, I came for really 2 reasons, actually. Multiple, but I'll say the 2. The job offer that I got in terms of finances was the best, because I needed to take care of myself and my family. So I came here, and I'm honest. And more, in addition to that, I wanted to experience a culture that is completely different from America. So I choose to be here, and I've been here since 2011. And you know, I would say, in my personal opinion, when you live in a different country other than your own, it makes you appreciate your country, I think, even more. And it's made me kind of like, hey, I never say, I will say, and I love the word that when you were talking about bias, because I think everybody has that. So when I describe Saudi Arabia, because it's not my country, I say, hey, you know what? There's things that I like, and there are things that are not my cultural experience. I don't think I have a right to say that I don't like it. I do have a right to my opinion based on my experience here. But from
certain stereotypes before coming here.
Oh, did I have stereotypes? I'll be honest with you. To be honest, no, because I did my research. Now, if you ask me what I was surprised about when I came here, yeah. I didn't have any stereotypes, because for me, I think it was very thorough to do thorough research. If you're going, I'm from Chicago, so I'm 6,942 kilometers from home. Do I know the exact amount? Anyway, but I didn't know, I didn't have any stereotypes. What surprised me was this. I did not realize at the time when I first got here that Jeddah had Jeddah had all these malls. I was like, there's a mall everywhere. I was like, oh my God, there's a mall everywhere. That was number 1.
Yeah.
And number 2 was I was not, and I'll be honest, followers, I was not aware of single section, family section. So when I first came here, I worked for an English school, and I went to get something to eat. And I went into Applebee's, and a very good friend of mine, Mohammed, works there, and I walked into the family section. And he was like, where's your family? And I was like, my family's in America. He's like, well, you're in, and I knew nothing about single section, family section. So it reminded me of a time in America that we had not single section, family section, but a different thing. But no, I mean, I'll be very honest with you. If I believed in stereotypes when I came to Saudi, I never would have come. That's why I say, in my humble opinion, you cannot believe everything. And I know you have a newsletter, and I know you try to be partial or impartial. But I try to say, you know, the best way to experience a country is if you live there, and everything that is in the news is not necessarily true. Some is, but not everything is true.
Yeah, because actually you know, the news is always like, you know, there are many gray areas. So, and I don't talk about politics because this is not my.
Right. I got you.
Yeah, because actually I don't like to, you know, sometimes I think, you know, if I'm gonna talk about a lot of you know, negative things, so I always try to spread positivity rather than like crime, you know, a building got, you know, got exploded, or I don't like that news. I don't like to hear it, and I don't like to spread it. You know, it's no use. Like for me, it's just, it's news. It's necessary news, but I don't want to put it like, you know.
No, you just don't want to create an atmosphere.
Actually, yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry. No. Go ahead. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, the news outlet are already talking about this news to inform a lot of people, but for me, I don't have to like.
I do. You know what? Let me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I was saying what. Oh, good.
I don't want to be. I don't want to be like a traditional news outlet. I want to be different.
Okay, I got you. Let me say this, and I'm very, and welcome to the call again, and I'm very direct. Let me say this. I do think, I can't use, okay, let me say it like this. I do think there's a lot of shitty, excuse my English, I do think there's a lot of bad news out there, and I'm still one to think that people want to be inspired, and people need to hear about positivity. And I'm going to say this, and I mean no disrespect, and I mean this with the utmost respect. I love the fact that you are in Saudi Arabia, that you are a woman, as the roles of women are changing in Saudi Arabia, right? And that's, the country can do what it wants. But I respect the fact that you are a woman who is younger than me, who is an entrepreneur, who speaks English, who's getting out of the box. Because for me, that's what I create live Instagrams for. I believe that it's important that people need to visualize and see themselves. And you don't necessarily know, maybe you do, maybe you don't, but you don't necessarily know the impact that you might be making to some Saudi woman, or not even some Saudi woman, some woman that might be on a live Instagram that looks to you to be an inspiration. I mean, that's verified. So I like that. I do think that sometimes, you know, finding a bright side ain't the same side as fine. You know, I think there's ways that you can talk about things that are positive and negative, but even talk about negative things and put a good spin on it. With that being said, I think it's really important. It's like, you know what? It's like, hey,
how about altering that bad behavior?
Right. Because I think you said you said a brilliant word. You said bias, and I'm so glad you said that, because I do think that I'm going to make an I statement. I don't think I in my life did not recognize I had bias in certain situations. And I don't think that people recognize that. So the more information you get, or if you're able to be impartial, that you said, is a good thing. You know, so I'm really glad you're on the call, because I'm kind of like, wow, you know, that's a good thing. And I'll ask you one last question, and if you don't want to answer this, is fine. It was one of the followers that was asking the question. They were asking a question that do you as a woman in Saudi Arabia that is a owner of a news, do you run into particular challenges as being a woman in Saudi Arabia, or that has not been your experience?
Well, maybe if you're going to like, let's say, maybe a shop, not a shop, like any place that is full of men and you need to like speak to them, maybe or maybe you wanna do like, let's say, ask, you know, questions to certain guys. Usually I do it, you know, via online, because right now you cannot just, you know, if you're not like, you know, let's say very, you know, authorized or stuff, because you need authorization. And I am
Right, 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 right.
like a little startup. Um, so you can't like go and ask people, and you know, like guys, especially here in Saudi, when you are a woman and asking guys, like even if it's just, you know, it's a question for research, they're gonna be like, ah, they're gonna laugh or
Okay, not all. Okay, wait. Not all.
not
Some
all,
or
because
most. Okay, thank
thank God
you.
I
Okay.
never. Okay,
Okay.
let me say something. I thank God that I never experienced anything like that. But you know, there is a possibility that when you are a girl and you're gonna talk to guys, it's gonna be like a little troubling sometimes.
Okay,
Sometimes,
that's
not
fair.
always.
Sometimes. Right. Okay, hold on one second. OGM asked me the question. After being in all these years in Saudi Arabia, witnessing all and living all, do you think you would regret not coming to Saudi? That's a good question. Ain't the same. I'm being very honest with you. I would not. Generally, I have no regrets in my life. So I'm going to answer that question by saying no, because if I didn't come to Saudi, I wouldn't be the person that I am now, and I wouldn't learn. So
Yeah.
if you're asking me the question, would I do it all over again? Yes. Would I do certain things differently? Yes. But would I come? Yeah. Because the last point I would say on that ain't the same. And I think I've shared this with you. You know, when you live in two cultures, you just have both viewpoints, and I'm able to understand. So no, I don't have any regrets about that. I would come again. All right,
Great.
let's see.
Great.
All right. So listen, we got like 5 minutes left. You spoke for an hour, so like you're good. Um,
I took the
Followers,
time.
no, you should. Listen. Your English is good. For
Thank you very
your
much.
first time caller, listen, I found it to be extremely informative. Like I said,
Thank you.
informative, educational. Followers, listen, I'm going to be sharing her contact information later. If you are in Jeddah, in the local area, and even if you're not in Jeddah and you want to find out about what's going on in Jeddah or look at different types of writing, I will be sharing you newsletter information on. I really appreciate you taking the time, spending with me. You know, certainly if you ever want to come on a live Instagram again with me, you have an open invitation. I have no problem with that. Hold on one second. Dr. Param, I'm not taking live callers today. We have a special guest. If you have a message for me, brother, feel free to send me a DM message and I'll do it. And actually, I was on a live with the followers, you the followers after. So unfortunately, followers, if you want to be on, we'll do that at another time, because Teacher Will has to give quiz tomorrow, and so he has to finish creating the quizzes for my
Oh,
students tomorrow. So, but let me say again, thank you very much for being on the call, and
thank you very much for having
you
me.
have no any final comments or last words that you have, and thank
Uh,
you.
Nothing. So I wish that, you know, people not gonna be shy to learn language, or any language for that matter. Like me, for now, right now, I'm trying to learn like Turkish, for example. So it's good like to have more than one language skill.
Yes, yes. Excellent comments. Last comment I
And
have, I'm sorry, go ahead, end.
practice. You need to practice.
I
Like
love
before,
it.
yeah. B- Without practicing, you're not gonna master the language. You need to practice. Like any skill, you need to practice.
Exactly. Last comment that I have is one of the followers said, hey, they're really, really, really very proud of you. And I would echo that. More importantly, you should be proud of yourself for being on a first live Instagram. You did an amazing job. And I'm not saying that. My followers know me. I walk the walk, talk the talk. I'm very direct. I'm American. That's sometimes good or bad. But no, you should be,
It's good.
or it's a different communication style. I'll say it like that. But
They
no,
also say that. Can I say something?
yeah,
They
yeah,
also
yeah,
say
yeah.
that Americans are usually little blunt, which is kind of a good thing sometimes.
Well, I would say, as someone who lives in America, I'm sorry, who is American and who lives in Saudi Arabia, I have learned to adapt my communication style. I think sometimes, what's really, I think, important is that, it's important to understand your audience, and it's important to understand your people or where you live. And depending on the culture or something of that nature, sometimes people can find it too blunt, so it depends on the circumstance and situation. So the good thing I can say about Saudi Arabia, I have learned to adapt my communication style. So for those followers that think I was blunt or I am blunt, you should see me. You should have seen me in America. You would have been like, "What are you talking about, Teacher Will?" So followers, listen. Thank you very much. I'm going to share our contact information. And followers, all followers that, by the way, let me just say this, last point I promise. Followers, listen, for those of you that say you want to do a live Instagram with me and you want to speak with me and things of that nature, I try to do that. I did that last week. So anytime I do a live Instagram, I normally post it on my story and live with the followers. So I will be doing a live Instagram with you, the followers, again, but not tonight, all right? Followers, have an amazing night. Remember, as she said, practice the language. Without practicing, practice your English. Without practicing, it's like any skill, you won't be good at it. So thank you very much. I'm proud of you, but more importantly, you should be very proud of yourself. Have a good night, everybody. Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Good night. Bye.
Bye-bye.